If there is something that is going to pull on your confidence a lot more than many other things, it's if you continue to avoid having those tough conversations. And I know that they're not pleasant per se. I know that they're not the most fun thing. But I can't tell you just how many women will go out of their way to avoid having a conversation which is necessary to either resolve conflict or explain a misunderstanding or clarify issues to get on the same page. And I think you build up this big, terrible, awful scenario in your head, and you want to avoid that pain. Or the only other alternative is that relationship is not important enough to you. And if that's the case, then okay, it would be the right thing to do just to send a message or convey that, perhaps the meeting or the conversation doesn't feel like it's a real priority, and thanks so much, and be courteous and honoring of yourself and the other person. And maybe draw it to a close, but don't leave it open-ended. There's so many women that I'm working with, and so many of them say, this thing hasn't been resolved, and it's been months, or it's been weeks, or it's been a year. And these very good, powerful, former, loving relationships just go down the tube. So if that's you, I hope that you will just give this some thought today, in that when it comes to being in relationship with someone, it can't just be all unicorns and freaking rainbows, right? Like, we have to put our big girl panties on and just face the music sometimes, and accept the fact that sometimes you are the one who screwed up, because that's true for all of us. I screwed up recently with a friend of mine, and she told me, and she's like, listen, this is what I needed from you, and I feel like you're a little bit harsh, and I feel like I just needed more loving support. And my first response was, well, whatever went in my head, I just thought, okay, there's so many things I could say to that, but what's important here? She needed me to be more loving and more supportive, and more patient and more understanding. Although I was frustrated because she had put herself in harm's way, and I don't like that, and she was really taken advantage of, and I don't like that. But she needed something from me that I wasn't giving her, and so as my friend, she would say, hey, Linda, and I have a choice, right? Every day is Tuesday. I can choose to be defensive and say, no, actually, that's not what happened, or here's why. Or I can say, you know what, my friend, I'm sorry. And I went in and I picked up a coffee and a fresh croissant, and I dropped it off at her house, and I gave her a hug, and I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. If that's how you experienced me, as just a bit harsh and impatient, I'm sorry. I don't want to be that kind of friend, that kind of person. So you got to ask yourself the question, how do you respond when someone calls you out on something and there's maybe a conversation to be had? Like, I recently did that with a friend of mine whom I've loved and respected for a very long time. And I reached out a couple of times, and the last time I'm like, yeah, no, I was firm in calling him out because it was appropriate. And the response was completely and utterly defensive, uninterested, and that's it. I'm like, okay, that's no problem. And now I know where our friendship stands. And you want that, friend. You want to be able to go in and say, hey, I've got a problem with this, or this is really hurtful, or I want us to check in on this because this has really impacted our friendship, and can we have a conversation? And if they don't want to, don't force it. Don't try and keep in your life people who don't want to be in your life. You will very, very quickly find out if someone finds you important or not, because they will make the effort to have the conversation. You need to do that. So if you are avoiding conversations, or that tough conversation, or that slightly awkward, uncomfortable conversation, if you're avoiding it, you're communicating to that person that he or she is simply not important enough to you, because that's what avoidance does, is not important, and I don't want to go to all the effort, and it's not a priority for me. The number of times I've heard that is a lot from a particular person in my life. It's like, it's just not a priority. I'm like, okay. So it eventually breaks the relationship down to the point where the other one's got to go, is this a relationship I want to stay in? If things, anyway, so the point being, you want to make sure that you have those tough conversations. It will boost your confidence. It will give you new skills. And let me tell you something else. It will earn you respect in the eye of the other person, because most people will not do this. And the minute that you do that with your business partner, or your spouse, or your friend, or your coworker, the minute that you have a respectful, mind you, a respectful honoring of self and others conversation with the objective of what? Of resolving the conflict, or getting back on the same page, or restoring the relationship to an honoring and respectful one, you will go up in that person's books. Not that you're doing it for that purpose, but that's what's going to happen. Have the difficult conversations. You're a grown-ass woman. You've done far harder things. You've pushed babies out of your vagina, for goodness sake, okay? You've done far harder things than having an uncomfortable 5-minute conversation. Stop avoiding it. Have a conversation with the person that you know is worthy of your time, because that's what you're communicating if you have it. If you avoid it, you're like, nope, you're not worth my time. Think about it.